Gravity.
Yeah, gravity. Does it exist?
Absolutely 100%. I'm assuming your position is it does not.
Definitely no, it does not exist. Would you have any evidence for it existing?
Well, we can measure it. We can predict and test it. We use it in engineering. It's included in calculations for buoyancy.
The Archimedes principle. Any body wholly or partially immersed in a fluid experiences an upward force equal to the weight of the fluid displaced. Now this applies to everything in a fluid. Take this brick as an example. If we lower it into the water, it's going to sink. But Archimedes' principle still applies. The brick is still experiencing an upward force equal to the fluid that is displaced. It's just the upward force is not enough to counter the weight of the brick.
Gravity is one of the most empirically demonstrated facts of the universe, I would say. There's many things that gravity does that nothing else can explain. I've measured, as part of my physics degree, measuring gravity and deriving the universal gravitational constant was something that I personally did, as well as everybody else who's ever done a physics degree. I've got no doubt in my mind that something I can measure actually exists.
Cool. What is gravity actually?
What is gravity?
I have no idea. Okay, next question.
Well, the easiest way to describe it is an apparent attractive force between masses.
But you do agree that gravity is not a force, though?
Gravity creates a force. It is the best way to get around that particular semantics argument. We all know that gravity isn't a force in the same way that an engine of a car isn't a force, but both of them create a force. So, when we say the gravitational force, we mean the force created by gravity.
But doesn't gravity have to be physical to create the force, though?
What do you mean by physical?
Can you have something that's not physical creating a force?
Well, what is a force?
It's an acceleration. Obviously, it's vector-based.
Well, you said it's an acceleration. That's
the acceleration is due to a force, but I'm saying it's vector.
But
you need physical properties. But you need physical properties.
If you were to have to, write down a calculation to figure out a force, what are the two variables that you need in that?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, mass and acceleration.
What's
that's
mass?
How you calculate
What's
what
mass?
Force is.
What is mass?
The amount of matter in something.
Yeah, but what is mass?
Well, mass is what stuff is. Mass is a measure of how much something is. We can say this weight is 1 kilogram of mass of iron. That's a measure of how much of iron it is.
So it's a quantitative measure of inertia.
Mass. The best way to in physics, the best way to describe it would be a measure of resistance to inertia, if that makes sense. So would you agree with that? That mass is a way of measuring a resistance to inertia?
I don't know, but that's the same as being inertia, because inertia is the resistance of change to motion. So is mass and inertia the same thing?
We agree that mass can literally be defined as a measure of resistance to inertia that we give a unit of grams to. So 1 kilogram of something is always going to be 1 kilogram of something, no matter where it is. And then the force that's applied to that will be different depending on how much acceleration is applied.
Yes.
That's literally what a force is. So
you
that's
would
what we
agree
mean when we say gravitational force, is that there is an acceleration acting upon a mass. And the mass being the measure of resistance to inertia, we can then use that and the acceleration that's acting upon it to find the force.
So you're saying the mass creates its own force? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. Mass times acceleration creates a force. If you've got a mass and that mass is under acceleration, there is a force, because F equals ma.
And gravity is not a force, so you cannot have acceleration. That's the whole point.
Well, gravity is an acceleration. That's, gravity is what causes the acceleration, and then you have the acceleration acting upon the mass.
No, you just said mass is. You just said mass is accelerated. Gravity causes the mass to accelerate.
No. I said mass times acceleration equals force. Do we agree with that basic concept, Flatzoid, that mass times acceleration equals force? Yeah. Do we agree with that basic concept?
It takes a force to make mass accelerate. I agree, but like I'm saying, gravity is not a force, so it can't cause anything to accelerate.
It's a force. Yeah.
What is gravity? Explain to me what is gravity so it can create a force.
It's an apparent attractive force between all masses. That's I don't really need to get into exactly what it is.
Yes, you do, because you said it exists. You said it creates.
Hold on. It's whether gravity is real, not whether I can define it down to the most accurate meaning. And that's not what it is. To demonstrate that gravity is real, I simply have to be able to measure it. And that's it. I don't have to define it to show that it's real. The same way that I could, show you that an electromagnetic field is a real thing without knowing.
Okay. I'll probably zoom in a little closer on this one. And we'll press the Morse code, tap a key, and see what happens. Here we go. Oh, wow. Okay, I'll just press it again. Okay, let's see what's happened. Well, we can see that the iron powder's lined up down the centre here, and then we're still getting this sort of circular shape around. Let's just have a look, remember what it looks like, where it's going through the plate there. And we're starting to get some circular shapes, especially up close. You can see that it's forming circles, and then it's sort of an offset circle here and on the other side. So what's this indicating? So magnetic field lines are straight down the centre, and then they're starting to curve off and then start to form circles close, and these ones are running out, and then we've got this
being exactly what it is. You don't have to know or explain exactly what it is to know that there's something going on there. We know that there is an apparent attractive force between all masses that is proportional to the product of the masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the masses. This is just an empirical fact.
And this is all based on what?
Measurements.
What measurements? Where did you measure these measurements?
Well, I performed a torsion bar gravity experiment.
So Cavendish.
World.
So you're saying,
very similar to a Cavendish experiment, yeah.
Cavendish is not an experiment. It doesn't have an IV and an
Well,
EV.
absolutely is. Whether you say it's not an experiment, it doesn't matter, because
What's
it absolutely
IV?
is.
What's the IV for Cavendish?
What's the... See, here we go. This is where you just go around the IV roundabout, because I tell you that the IV is distance, but you say distance can't cause anything. So, that's because you guys, even though your mantra is, what's the IV, the scientific method, you don't actually have any clue what an IV is, because in the Cavendish experiment, the IV is the distance between the masses. That's it.
Distance causes acceleration.
Is the apparent deflection. So you manipulate the distance between the masses, and you measure the apparent deflection of the bar on the torsion wire.
So gravity is distance.
No, the IV in the experiment is distance.
But what are you trying? I thought
nobody said that the IV is gravity. That is you attempting to put words in the mouths of people whilst demonstrating that you don't actually know what an experiment is yourself. Because the IV isn't what you're, the thing. The IV is just something.
So what is distance causing again? So what is distance causing again?
In the Cavendish experiment, specifically, the cause of the movement of the torsion bar is the distance between the masses.
So not gravity.
Sorry?
So not gravity, it's distance then.
Well, of course, the experiment is based on the prediction, and you've gone straight to there's an experiment.
That's what I'm trying to point out to you. It's not an
prediction.
experiment. You don't have an actual cause.
Well, it is an experiment because
you're contradicting yourself. If you're saying it's gravity, if you're saying it's gravity, then you're calling gravity a distance.
These are words that you're saying. So the experiment would be based on the predict. You're kind of working backwards here, obviously, through the FLIRF mantra of the scientific method. So what comes before experiment in the scientific method?
So what did you observe?
And what becomes before the prediction is obviously the hypothesis. So all these things can.
What did you observe? Let's start at step one. Observe gravity. Please tell me where you observe gravity.
You want to go back to high school? That's absolutely fine. So what's an observation? My observation is that when I pick up this earring that my wife wears, cool, isn't it? I had this 3D printed by a fan.
Quite nice.
And when I let it go, it accelerates towards my hand at about 9.8 meters per second squared. Can we all agree that that's an observation that I've just made?
Yeah, some things fall because it's denser than the medium around it. Yes, it can be scientifically validated.
Wait, you're putting. Well, that's not my hypothesis. That's things that you would say. I've simply made an observation, and do we all agree?
Things fall.
The observation of when I let this go, not just fall, right?
It's falling.
When I let this go,
things fall.
it accelerates to no. Listen, when I let this go, it accelerates towards my hand at approximately 9.8 meters per second squared.
It might shock you to learn then that at the surface of the Earth, there is no gravity. None whatsoever.
And when I let it go, it accelerates towards my hand at about 9.8 meters per second squared.
The reason the apple falls to the Earth isn't due to the fact that clocks at the top of the apple are, from the perspective of an individual on the ground, ticking slightly faster than clocks at the bottom of the apple.
And when I let it go, it accelerates towards my hand at about 9.8 meters per second squared.
Rather, it's due to the fact that you, the observer, are accelerating upwards through space at 9.8 meters per second squared.
And when I let it go, it accelerates towards my hand at about 9.8 meters per second squared.